Greetings, welcome to Farmeritaville. This video is going to be a tutorial and I'm going to show you my preferred method for making fake blood and fake slime. Now this is a very simple recipe. It only has 3 ingredients. The first one you won't be surprised to learn is water. You're just gonna need some water. The next one is food coloring, also pretty basic. You can make your slime and your blood whatever tint and color you like. And the third secret ingredient is food thickener. This is a tasteless, colorless powder that is typically used in the health industry to make different types of fluids more or less viscous for people who have trouble chewing, digesting, and swallowing. And you can get this at any drugstore. I got this at CVS. I know I've also bought it before at Walgreens, or you can go online to numerous sources, any kind of health supply store, health food store. But like I said, definitely CVS and Walgreens carry this stuff. There are a couple different brands. The brand doesn't matter. I've got the CVS house brand right here. It's all pretty much the same. This stuff is made of modified food starch and maltodextrin. That's it, simple additive bases. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna mix this in with water to get a viscosity that we like to represent slime or blood. And then we're going to color it to our liking. There are 2 main reasons that I am a fan of this recipe for blood and for slime. One, I already mentioned, this stuff is food grade, it's food safe, you can consume it. Second reason that this is my favorite recipe in the whole world, and the reason I have been using this for stuff whenever I need it, there's no sugar. There is no sugar in this. I know we've probably heard the classic blood recipe if you use, like corn syrup, that sort of thing. And that's absolutely fine, it works. Corn syrup is very high in sugar, as well as some other ingredients you may mix in with stuff like that. Chocolate syrup, I've heard, to darken it. Sugar, liquid sugar, sticky, gross, gooey. You get it on your actors, your clothes, anything on the set, anywhere you use it. It is just a nightmare and a mess, and I never liked that. What's great about this is there is no sugar whatsoever. You can rinse this off with water. I was mixing up a test batch earlier in my kitchen sink, and I was testing the thickness of it by spattering it on the sides of the sink, and all I did was take the little sink sprayer and it came right off, no problem whatsoever. As far as staining goes, it is food coloring stains, that's the nature of it. The severity of the staining depends on how much food coloring you use in your recipe and how long it's left on the surface that it may or may not stain, but for the most part, always assume that this stuff is going to stain anything that it touches. So keep that in mind, especially when you're making it. Wear clothes you don't mind getting dirty. And of course, if you're using it for film work or, a live show or something like that, just keep in mind that it's liable to stain whatever it gets on. And because it does not gum up and get sticky like sugar, you can pump it through stuff. This is just a regular Class A water-based fire extinguisher, which is essentially a airtight chamber. You put your water in there, you pressurize it with air, it sprays out. That's how a fire extinguisher works. But if you had any kind of crazy need to make blood or slime spray all over the place with some kind of mechanical apparatus, a la guar maybe, this stuff is perfectly safe to run through there. And all you'd have to do to clean your system, your pumps, your extinguisher, whatever you're using, is just flush it with clean water when you're done and get all the little granules and stuff out. All right, we're gonna start by making some slime because slime is easier. Slime is more fantasy than blood. Blood is real. We know what blood looks like. We know what blood's supposed to look like. We've seen a lot of horror movies. Slime is a little more playful, as Nickelodeon has taught us. It's all kinds of fun. So your slime can be whatever color and consistency you want it to be. Therefore, there's no real specified ratio of mixtures to your powder to water. You can just kind of play with it. I'm gonna start in my mixing pitcher by just pouring all my water in there. I'm not sure exactly how much that is. 2 liters, 2.5 liters, I think. Just under 3 liters. Okay, so that's a little less than 3 liters of water. So we're gonna make us a nice big 3-liter batch of slime. This is pretty straightforward. We're just gonna add our food thickener in here a little bit at a time. Now we want our slime to be thicker than our blood, so there's obviously going to be more food thickener added than there is to the blood recipe, but again, it doesn't have to be as precise. When we get to blood mixing, we'll do a little bit more balance measuring. And then I'm going to use my paint stirrer. Pro tip, do as I say, not as I do. I've obviously used this for paint before. Don't use the same thing for paint that you're gonna mix up slime that you may be pouring on people. Go buy a fresh, clean one and keep it in your kit. Keep it just for making slime. You don't wanna get paint flakes and nasty stuff in there that may not be edible or safe for consumption. So we've got our first little bit stirred up there. That's still really thin. You can see that that's real thin if I pour some of that out there. That is super thin, so we're going to add a whole lot more of that powder. And once again, go in, mix it up. Delicious. Try not to sling too much of the powder outside of the pitcher. All right, that's very thick. Let's look at that. That's real thick. In fact, I think I want to add a little bit more water to that. Just a little. You want to be careful. You want to kind of start to stir at the stop. You want to kind of use the stirrer up at the top a little to help get that powder down in there so that it mixes. But when you're up high like that, slow down the speed on the drill. Otherwise, you're going to sling this stuff everywhere on the outside of the pitcher or the bowl, whatever you're mixing in. Okay, now we have a really thick batch of slime that's mixed up. We haven't added color to it yet, so right now it's just white. And before I add color to it, I want to go in close with the other camera and show you why the blood takes a little bit more finesse to get it looking good. So right now it's just kind of a white sludge. I mean, it's thick, it's real thick. And again, we can water this down. We can make it thinner or thicker. And in fact, I probably will make this a little bit thinner before we finish. But what I want to show you is, if you look really close, if you see it kind of stuck to the side of the pitcher right there, that's pretty thin, but you can see those little granules in it. You see little like specks that are in there, the crystals. That's that powder. It's been pretty well absorbed, but you can still kind of see it. Right there's a good look. You can still see those crystals. Now for slime, this doesn't really matter. For blood, we don't want it to have any kind of chunky consistency like that. So when we get to blood, I will show you how we handle that. I'm gonna pour some of this into this pitcher of water, and I'm gonna stretch it. We're gonna wind up with probably more like 5 liters, I think, than 3, because this is a little thicker than I want it to be. Look how that just hangs there, hanging off the pitcher, even thick like that. This looks like ice, and it's nowhere near ice cold. It's chilly, but it's not ice cold. For this mixture, really, your imagination is the limit, because you could use this for snow, for ice, snowballs, whatever. It's as thick as you want to make it. See how thick this is, how I can dip that in there and it comes off like on the end. I think that's too thick. We're not gonna be able to pour this so much, but like I just showed you, I could scoop it out with my hand and throw clumps of it. That doesn't make it unusable. That means if you want slime that you can scoop up and throw like clumps of mud, go thick. This works. I'm gonna make this my new principal batch though, because it's thin enough to pour. This isn't wasted. I could put this in a sealed container and hang on to it. The shelf life on this stuff is pretty long. Food coloring never goes bad. If you keep this stuff dry and sealed in a cool place, it can last forever. Once you mix it with water, I probably wouldn't use it after it's been sitting for months, but seal it and keep it, you know, in a cool, dark place, airtight, and you could probably hold on to it safely for a few days. So if you're on a film shoot and you know you're gonna need some more stuff and you maybe overmix like I just did, you can hang on to this and then use it to thin out your water as you mix subsequent batches later on. So that's not wasted. Next step is easy, just add your food color. There is no set amount. It's completely on what you want the coloring to look like, what shade you want your slime to be. Now I am going to try to get, if I get the label off, I'm gonna go for that classic Nickelodeon slime. That's what I want it to look like. So we'll start with just a few drops of green. That was more than a few drops. That was maybe a quarter of this bottle. This is a 1 ounce bottle. So about a 1/4 ounce of green. And then we'll mix it. That is green, green, green. Rinse off my drill. Now I'm going to do just a little bit of yellow because I want it to look more fluorescent, I guess we'll call it. Nickelodeon slime was pretty bright for the most part. Be careful with this one. There, just a little pinch of yellow on top of my green. And there we go. That's pretty good looking slime. Clean it off. There we go. And there we go. I think that's some pretty good looking slime. Oh yeah, that's nice. That's a good consistency. I'm very happy with that consistency. This is very cold. It's very cold. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. This is why I wear a hat. You never saw the kids on Nickelodeon wearing a hat. I always wear a hat. For fear of this exact thing, you never know when you're out and about, you might get randomly slimed. Now we're gonna look at our blood recipe. As you've already guessed, it's the exact same formula, powder, water, and food coloring, but the mixture does need to be more precise on this because you want your blood to look realistic. For this, I'm starting with a specified amount of water, 16 ounces. Now this is just a baseline. Again, just like slime, you can add or subtract your water to powder ratio however you wish. And for every 16 ounces of water, it's going to be 4 tablespoons of your food thickener. And you can just stir this up with a spoon. Now again, these measurements are approximate. This is a good starting point. If you're making blood for film work, the director is going to want a specific look, lighter, darker, thinner, thicker, or you may have to replicate on-screen blood that has already been shot previously and you need to match that look. So this is just a baseline to start with. And that's pretty much it. We're ready for food color, except what's the problem here? You've got those nasty little granule pieces in there. You can see them splotched up on the side. Now for slime, that doesn't matter, but blood doesn't look like that. Blood needs to be more of a pure nectar. You can't have these little granules. So the solution to that is that we are going to boil it. Now, I would suggest you mix your powder and water together first, then stir it up or mix it up, and then boil it. You'll notice here some of the mixture I did, I actually poured the powder into the pan on the stove, and you see some of the larger clumps. Those are a little bit more troublesome to try to break up. But once you get it hot, you just keep stirring it, let it steam. You don't want to bring it to a complete boil. You just want to make sure that it's warm enough that those granules break down and they are not noticeable. So you get like a nice, clear, viscous, nectary, bloody consistency without those tiny little chunks in it. When you're done with this, it's going to be very, very hot. Once again, there's no need to boil it, but the hotter it is and the more you stir it, the faster that stuff will break up. So once you get it to the consistency that you like, take it off the heat and put it in a fridge or just leave it out to sit and cool down. Very important. Do not use this on an actor while it's still hot. It's very hot, near boiling water temperature. Don't use it until it cools down. This bowl, this is a double batch. This is 32 ounces that I mixed up earlier and I let cool down, or rather I put it in the fridge to cool down. And you'll notice with it, get up close, see, in the spoon, you don't have those little granules. It's nice and a good nectar consistency. So now all we have to do is stir in our food color how we like it. I may have mentioned this earlier, I may not have. The brand of food color doesn't matter. Kroger brand had green and Adam's extract had red. I got the bigger red one because obviously I'm going to be using more red to make my blood than I am green. So I'm going to start with just a healthy little pour, not too much. Rule of thumb when you're mixing colors of blood is add a little bit at a time, because once you add too much, it's difficult to go back. You wind up with a bigger batch of blood, but then your chemical mixing becomes a little bit more complicated as well. That's not bad. And mixing in the white bowl, I can slosh it up on the sides of the bowl and see kind of how it's going to look. So I definitely want a little bit more red in that. I think that's good on red. If we stir that up, get a little bit richer red color. And that's not too bad. And now the kick is to add a little green to it. A lot of effects guys will add a little bit of blue, which you get a darker consistency, but it leans more towards purple. You can also use green, and I like green because it pushes it more towards a brown, which is more natural for blood when it coagulates. Now we have a pretty good blood consistency. I'm happy with this. I think the color works. And again, for the millionth time, I'm gonna say the color is subjective, whether it's blood or slime or whatever you're making. You can always color this to your heart's content unless you are under very stringent orders to match a specific color. You can always experiment with the color. So now we are going to go outside the shop and kind of do some splatter tests and see how this looks. This is smooth-sided here, painted white, so it's not like a wood grain. Just get a nice little blood spray on there. And if you watch it, it'll start to drip. That's a pretty good, pretty realistic looking blood splatter. I like that, I'm happy with that. We could have gone a little darker. The blood could be a little bit darker, but that's exactly why you come to tests like this before you're gonna use it on screen or in the field. Make sure you like it, but the consistency is there. I love the consistency. You see the slow drips, and I think that's a pretty good batch. Well, thank you for watching. Every week I'm gonna find something fun to do. It might be a tutorial like this. It may be going to a theme park or a haunted house or some other fun event, and I'm gonna bring you guys along for the ride. It might even be some behind the scenes stuff. I've been places, I meet people, I know things, and you never know what kind of stuff we'll get access to. There's tons of videos already like that on this channel, so please browse and find and enjoy them, comment on them if you like them. Thank y'all for watching. Definitely subscribe for more videos where we're gonna go do fun stuff. Thanks for watching. Now go do stuff.